Welcome to Closer to Venus. I'm Johnny Burke, and today's guest is Dr. Toni Reilly. She is a SoulLife coach, an author, and one of Australia's most sought-after past life regression specialists. Her SoulLife coaching program represents the next step in the evolution in past life regression, and her goal is to ultimately change the face of psychology. Toni, welcome to the program.
Morning, Johnny. Thank you for having me.
It is morning where you are, isn't it? I keep forgetting that. I'm in Florida and you're in Australia.
You're on the opposite. Yeah.
Hence the Sunday night recording. Excellent. Okay, cool. So you're a hypnotherapist and a coach. How did you seg into past lives and reincarnation?
My life was very ordinary and mainstream up until about my mid-30s. And at that stage, I became intrigued about intuition, my own intuition. It was the first time I realized that I had it, or it was a thing for me. And in the process of trying to develop that, I started to meditate. And I didn't know that normal people meditated. I thought monks meditated. So in meditation, I realized I had all of these clair senses, and they worked and they were brilliant. The lady who was teaching me to meditate told me to read Many Lives, Many Masters by Dr. Brian Weiss. When I read that book, I read it in almost one go, and I thought to myself, this is what I'm here to do. It was a revelation. I hadn't had anything to do with past lives before reading that book. From there, it was a bit of a process to quickly get it happening and do something with it.
That book was or is a life changer, a game changer for many people. And his signature has been felt throughout that industry. And on this podcast, there's been several people that were trained by Brian Weiss. And I read the book and it was pretty incredible, to say the least.
Amazing.
So that makes sense. What is a SoulLife coach?
A SoulLife coach, they're more a therapist, actually. It's someone who's trained to go deeper than the story that we tell as people, because we usually want coaching because we need some help or we've got a problem. So what we do as a SoulLife coach is go beyond the story and help that person understand themselves and why they feel the way that they do. We go to an emotional level, and if that's really for this day stuff. But if there are issues that can help boost people's esteem or confidence or help them relieve themselves of a fear or a phobia, then we can delve into the past lives or even go beyond to help them discover their purpose. So that's really the difference. We consider the soul.
I know that you also wrote a book called Awake the Purpose of Life and Why You Are Here, but I think you just hinted going beyond the past life. Would that be the life between life space?
And even beyond that.
I just opened up a Pandora's box, I know.
You did. Even beyond that.
Really?
The between,
okay.
If I would just dumb it down, the between life space is where there's information about either the past lives you're leading or the current life that you're leading. So it's almost like a bit of a space where humans or people can go and interact and get some relief messages, some guidance for themselves. Whereas there's even beyond that where it's really, dare I say, nothing, the most beautiful nothing, where we're all one. And this is this place where people are always talking about, oh, we're all one. But it's there, you can feel it and can visit there. They don't let you stay there long. It'll usually be, you've got to go back now. So, yeah, different spaces to go and get answers from.
What I've been told by many practitioners like yourself is that it is a place where soul contracts take place, soul family members are discovered. Oh, and one of my favorites, the life review, which it really almost makes my brain hurt to think about these things, but almost seems too good to be true. Is that me, or have you heard that before?
I think it does seem too good to be true. It's almost something that you must experience to appreciate that it's true. It feels true when you do this, when you go there, when you visit there. It can be a hard concept to fathom, but all of the things, thinking for a start, is a human thing. It only happens here in this body. So once we're relieved of the body and we're in soul energy, or we're visiting because we're in between lives or beyond, then we don't have the brain or the thoughts to deal with. We don't have hierarchy. We don't have time. Nothing of our human existence. And most of all, we don't have emotion. That's why it's just this amazing
That's great.
feeling there. Yeah.
That's incredible. Now, in this space, lots of questions that usually come up when people start talking about past life regression and then the in-between life space, and then obviously the soul contracts, soul family members, as I mentioned before. In these sessions, is it true that we actually choose what period we're going to incarnate into a certain period?
I honestly can't say that for sure because the work that I do is for people to feel better now in this life. Yes, we go back to past lives to help them understand now as well. But when we go in between, they're asking about now. So the answers that they get in my sessions are for now. So whether they chose to come into this time zone or there's another era, I should say, I'm not sure because always I'm dealing with this life, or predominantly everything's leading back to what's going on now and why.
The whole purpose of regression therapy, as described in Many Lives, Many Masters, was there was a female patient that had some kind of an issue. And in this case, the practitioner was just trying to find the cause and the origin of the problem, correct?
Yes, she had
That was
many
the premise.
symptoms.
She had many
Yes,
symptoms, but what he did not count on being taken back to a life that took place, what was it, 3,000 years ago? That's how
yes.
he discovered it.
What does happen, Johnny, though, in regression is they don't go linear. Let's say someone's dealing with, let's say, anxiety for just pulling something out of the air. They might go back to a caveman time, and then if they go to another life, it might be in the 60s. So there's no linear time when they're recalling them either. They go to where there's something that's happened that makes sense of what's going on now. It's very cool.
It almost sounds like a science fiction movie. And also, speaking of movies, I've heard many, many times, again, from practitioners and experiencers, that planning of the next incarnation amongst several soul family members, I imagine, it's like casting a play or a movie.
Yes.
Is that your experience or that of your clients?
Yes, it is like casting a film. It really is. And also something I've discovered from all 20 years of working with this is everything is destined. Everything is planned, every little detail. I think people get annoyed about it and they're like, oh, it's allowing sidestepping and not taking responsibility. But actually what it does is it helps you become at ease with everything that happens and be more at peace, especially when obviously we're really only concerned when terrible things happen or things that make us feel bad. You get into this more philosophical mindset of, oh, well, it was meant to be, so why? And start looking for why instead of feeling so victimized by our lives and our circumstances. It's extraordinary. And I think this is something also that people discover when they do regression or go beyond, that life is planned and we're to be with certain people or certain souls.
Everything happens for a reason.
Everything does happen for a reason. Yeah. And
That's
often
incredible.
it's not until hindsight that people are able to fathom, oh, I get why that happened. And then of course in the moment it's also not beneficial to tell someone that in the moment when they're going through something because they have to reach that understanding themselves. Otherwise you're poking a bee, if you like. But yeah, it all turns out.
That means that they are on their path.
Yeah.
And to interrupt them on their path, you're not really doing the good that you think that you might be doing.
Yes, that's right.
Am I right?
Yes.
I've heard that quite a bit. I think it's amazing that no matter who I talk to who has real credible experience in this space, in the LBL space, the accounts, the details are a little bit different, but the structure and the hierarchy, the way how things happen is almost identical.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm in a rush to get there, but I don't know. It seems like it's a lot of fun to me.
Oh, Johnny, that means if you have not done an LBL yourself, we must do one.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
That might be a discussion for another day, but yeah, I get that. You're not the first person to bring that up. When I do the interviews, someone will say, a guest speaker will say, "So Johnny, when are you going to do this?" And I invariably will respond, "Oh, I'm going to get around to it at some point." I don't want to make this about me. It's about the speaker, but that's a fair point. So before I forget, well, I did bring up the fact that you did write your book, Awake, The Purpose of Life and Why You Are Here. Tell us a little bit about that. I would imagine this work had a lot to do with inspiring that work,
It
that
did.
book, rather.
It did, because as I started to do this work, it was a culmination. At the same time, I became so aware of my own stuff. And the two of these things together, working with people and also becoming really aware or self-aware of myself, made me realize that absolutely everything in life was quite simple, really, and that one person's life is easy to outline as to why we have these parents, why did we go to that school, why did we go to 20 schools. Just every little detail has a purpose. This is what I tried to do when I wrote The Purpose of Life and Why You're Here, was to just outline the simplicities in life that are fundamental to an individual's life and how it plays out. So that was what I tried to portray, because also I felt that people have this idea that the purpose of life is something different to what it is. It's very simple, really. The purpose of life is every moment of every day. That's what I tried to portray in that book. I did some things, as in I met somebody towards the end of my marriage. People didn't talk about these things that happen, but when you work in therapy with people, it's happening all the time. And we're quiet about relationships and relating to people, which is a massive part of the purpose of life, and judging it from a moral perspective. But really, it doesn't matter, because all it does is make people hide what they're doing. It's still all going on because we're here having these experiences and we're meant to encounter this person or that person. So I tried to be very honest with what I had done and what I had experienced. I'll umbrella it with love at first sight, which is this irresistible pull when you come across somebody in your path. But this happens not just for love, it happens for all sorts of things. So the book was generally about, I'm going to call myself an everyday life and how it transpires. Of course, everyone doesn't get into past lives, but still.
A simple answer to what is the purpose of life, why we're here, it's pretty much just to learn, because as you just mentioned before, everything has a purpose, every event. And I believe it's for all of us to learn, not just me, the soul group, even all the bad stuff.
I feel like when I first started, it was very, we're here to learn. What are we learning this time? But what I also discovered was it was less about learning in terms of we're paying back, or we didn't learn it last time, we're going to learn it next time. I found that that's not really how it works, and that it was easier to call it, we're here for an experience. I think people also get wound up in, have I learned what I was supposed to? We all do. The thing's mapped out, and we're going to have our experiences and we will learn. Everybody learns through life. We grow, we evolve. It's a cycle of life. But I feel like when we're learning, people get this idea that they could fail, but you can't fail.